Hey, Geekscapists, welcome to a brand new Geekscape podcast. I'm Jonathan London, your host. And if this is your first Geekscape, well, strap yourselves in. We are going to be talking movies, a lot of movies, some TV, and we've got Josh Jackson here. So chances are you're going to get some video games as well. This is Geekscape. We like to cover, I don't know, sort of a mile wide and an inch deep as far as pop culture goes. Sometimes, though, we have experts that go pretty deep on this subject, and I have surrounded myself with a plethora of them today. I've got my co-host Katie Hampton on the show, and we're also joined by specialists from the Geekscape Network, Josh Jackson from Geekscape Games, Derek from the Xbox Game Passengers podcast, and Matt Kelly, who runs the network and is also one of the hosts of the Horror Movie Night podcast. We all were at Comic-Con, and this is the first live episode that I've done since. It's been about 3 weeks since we've done a live episode, so I'm really glad to be doing it. It's a lot of fun. And if you missed Comic-Con, well, it's all in the audio feed. If you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, you're actually missing a lot of cool content on the Geekscape podcast feed. We have 5 shows from Comic-Con. Each day I sat down with everybody who came by the booth. We sat down and had like a 5 to 10 minute conversation about everything they experienced at Comic-Con. And it's sort of like a salad bar of Geekscape at Comic-Con experiences. We have all sorts of cool guests coming through, and you get to experience Comic-Con through their eyes and our own. So go check those out. We also have some fun episodes just with different specialists. Oh, the panel that we did at Comic-Con on Lost in Space and Netflix, that was the Netflix Lost in Space. That's up on the feed too. You might want to check that out. There's tons of stuff on that feed, and not just the Geekscape feed. But we now have about 26, 27 shows across the Geekscape network. We're adding shows almost every week, definitely every month, and there's a lot of variety on there. So go to whatever podcatchers you get your pods on, search for Geekscape, and be like, maybe I'll listen to some horror movies. Maybe I like that Katie girl. She has a podcast on here called Black and White. Maybe I want to subscribe to that. There's all sorts of cool stuff. If it's Geekscape, chances are it's geeky. Chances are it's good, so chances are you should be listening to it. But right now, we've got a job to do, and that is do the main show. The I don't want to call it the main show, the flagship show, the one that started it all. And let's go. Let's start it up. All right, Geekscapists, let's get this thing going. Tons of news have happened since Comic-Con. It's been hitting us pretty big. I think the main news, the one that's really worth talking about right off the bat, is this whole Warner Brothers Discovery acquisition. We knew something was going to happen when AT&T divested themselves of Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers supposedly is like $50 billion in debt, and they're missing their mark every quarter, but so is some of the offerings from Disney as well. It seems like this whole pivot to streaming is posing a bit of a challenge for a lot of the old guard as far as Hollywood studios go. Netflix and Amazon and some of these other entities are, they were born in this world of the internet and streaming. But some of the old studios like Warner Brothers and Disney, some of these more traditional studios, Paramount, they're trying to learn that game. They're trying to get into it, and they're taking on a lot of water to learn it. And they're trying to figure out like what to keep and what not to keep. So I think the big news is that the first fatalities over at Warner Brothers are this Batgirl film that was done shooting and going into editing, and there was a Scooby-Doo animated one that Paul Dini was involved in that also was a fatality. Those were supposed to come out in the holidays, and that's not going to happen. Supposedly we're never going to see those. They were part of a tax write-off. They were also part of the old regime's initiatives and the I just hit one button and I was out of the studio. The new president over there, um, Zasla. This is gonna be a tough one for me to pronounce, but Zaslav. That's his last name, David Zaslav. He's been kind of tasked with getting them out of the financial doldrums over there at Warner Brothers and clearing a path for success. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's going on over at Warner Brothers. First up, I got Katie here, and it does.
I legit thought you got bought up by Warner Brothers and then just got canned right then in that moment.
Warner Brothers told me. Facebook user says, did Discovery hire InsulBot to take down your show? No, I could take down the show all on my. So they don't need to hire anybody to take down Geekscape. It's just a slow burn to the downward spiral already. Let's see. Facebook user also says the Batgirl film allegedly had as good a test score as Black Adam. We're going to see Black Adam in October, and we'll see what that's like. But let's see. The Facebook user also says, "Let's go. Eager to talk about how hard Discovery Plus sucks. How hard Sandman rules." We'll be talking about that.
I'm very interested because the HBO Max and everything, with whatever. I'm concerned at how many HBO. I went from HBO Now to HBO Max to what am I gonna have to do? What am I gonna have to sign up for now? It's interesting. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to Warner Brothers.
I heard the suggestion to actually merge it with Peacock and call it MaxCock Plus.
I'm in. I'll buy it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I read that. That was a joke somebody else made. So if you hate that joke, that was not my joke, but I did repeat it. So I'm sorry about that. Yes. As I said earlier, the debt is real. To me, we're amazed because HBO Max I think it's the best streaming platform. I think it's great. It's got tons of old content, old movies. It's also got really
great content. It's got great new stuff. It's got great old stuff. It has quite of all the streaming services that have either survived or thrived during all of this. I'm actually kind of surprised by how much good things are on HBO Max. They had a little bit of a rough going because they were trying to mimic Disney Plus, and I think that was their mistake. And they kind of did their own thing, which it sounds like they're doing that with their DCEU now. Is that they're trying to do a 10-year model for the DC Comics universe, cinematic universe. I'm a little wary. It might be a little too late. I don't know.
Do we think? He says, "Bring back Quibi," and he's only saying that because they bribed him with food 3 Comic Cons ago. That's he's only got one horse in the race, and that horse lasted about 20 days on the open market. I think Quibi lasted about 20 days, and Derek was the majority of their subscriptions. There,
I was legitimately filming a pilot for something when that all kind of went down.
Yeah. Jim Pagranelli is in and he says HBO Max has Hacks, Primal, Harley Quinn, and a lot fucking more. Not to mention one of our favorite shows of the year, Peacemaker, which supposedly is safe over there.
That's what I heard.
But the Batgirl movie, a part of you wants
to talk about the things that you have with that. You've got Michael Keaton as Batman back. Mm-hmm. Brendan Fraser, who the internet loves and needs a comeback for.
Supposedly stole the movie. Supposedly test audiences were saying that Brendan Fraser stole this movie and was awesome. That being said, we were supposedly supposed to get Keaton Batman in Aquaman 2, but that role is now going to be the Ben Affleck version, which is great. It's fine. We have multiple Batman. That's cool. We got the multiverse going on. The Speed Force is going to run across. We get all that stuff. But
sure, great. Let Ezra Miller work, because that's one thing we're asking for.
So the question is this the first steps in removing Michael Keaton's Batman? What happens if Batgirl comes out? It's a success. Everybody loves Michael Keaton's Batman as an elderly kind of mentor figure, and everybody's oh my god, I can't wait to see him again in Aquaman 2. And then they say
Beyond, or they do the Batman Beyond movie finally.
What if they say we can't wait to see that Michael Keaton Batman in the Flash movie. Like, is this a sign that Warner Brothers might be course correcting the Flash movie? How do you course correct a $250 million movie?
If they're course correcting the Flash movie, then they don't need Ezra Miller anymore. I mean, that's the cat. I don't understand quite what this is going for. Like, I understand that they want better content, something that brings people a little bit more, but I feel like Warner Brothers, unfortunately, has been the edgelord of the entire like DC universe. It's just like, let's get you to the point of like real excitement and then tank it and take it so hard, but like give you Batfleck. I'm sorry, I don't want Batfleck. I want Michael Keaton.
So I mean, everybody kind of knew the secret was that they were doing this to meet like a tax deadline, a write-off deadline. That if they could do this by August 8th, which is today, the recording of this episode, that this stuff kind of came off as it came off as a tax loss for these big, these movies. Supposedly Batgirl is $90 million. It's quite something to shelf. Dustin Rubin, our good friend who does our 90s show. No, it's an 80s show. I'm sorry, Dustin. Sorry to say that. He says, as a former Discovery producer, I can tell you that CEO David Zaslav hates scripted content because he hates unions. If he has his way, HBO will be entirely fixer-upper reruns. And I've heard that HBO Max is going to go very much into the reality TV, and that they want to bring back the HBO brand properly as a channel that you have to subscribe to get this cool stuff that you already were getting on HBO Max.
This feels like a slow motion descent. Like that there's a lot of producers, there's a lot of writers, there's a lot of really profound people in the industry right now who are not looking to work with Warner Brothers after this. Like, they're going to have writers in their clauses that say you have to make sure it at least goes through editing or has one theatrical film release. Like, I don't see people.
I think if you're a white male, you're okay over there.
Well, yeah, no, you're fine. No, you're totally fine. Yeah,
you want a Joker 2 movie?
If you're someone who's as successful as the directors who did Miss Marvel and did an incredible job, who, by the way, did you know, found out at his wedding?
Yeah.
Found out about this at his wedding.
I know. Yeah, Kevin Feige supposedly, there's an email going around that Kevin Feige sent. It was like, hey, hope you're doing good. Congrats on the wedding. Great job on Miss Marvel. Just excited to work with y'all again, which is great. We're excited to see them work again. Let's get in my vote. If they're going to take Ezra Miller out of The Flash, I've got a lot of casting ideas on who should replace him. And you know what? They removed Kevin Spacey from films when he got in a little bit of trouble, and they recast him, and they did the digital thing, and they reshot, and they put him back in a movie. So if you're going to do that with The Flash to remove Ezra Miller, I got one name at the top of my list, a person to remove it, to bring them in. That's Derek Crenevelt. Derek, is that a rumor that maybe you could play the Flash?
I mean, I'm gonna have to like work on my running a bit and my cardio, but other than that, I think I'm.
I personally would love to see you as a Flash, just as is. Like,
yeah, just a chubby Flash.
I wouldn't even call you chubby, sir. I met you at Comic-Con.
Yeah, you're looking okay, Derek. Don't you worry about that. But if you have like an antithesis, like if you have like a foil in this, like Professor Zoom, then that's gonna have to be Matt Kelly of the horror movie night. Matt Kelly's got to be the villain in any Flash reshoot, and obviously the person pulling the strings that like is the post-credit scene and leads to further down the line of the DCEU and gets the fans like, oh my god, they're really bringing him in. They're talking about Josh Jackson, of course, of Geekscape Games. That's this right here, Geekscapists, be very clear. This right here, this is my rogues gallery. All right, right here.
Speaking of Ezra Miller, did you guys see he got arrested again today?
Shut up! Did he really?
Yeah, he did.
On the day of the tax break, really?
Just past the business day cutoff, I think, so that they can't cancel the Flash this year.
Yeah. Supposedly he has this house in Vermont where he was letting this 25-year-old mother stay, and I'm just paraphrasing what I read. Do not quote me. This should not be your news source. Geekscape should not be your news source. It should be your malformed opinion source. There were some kids like between ages 1 and 5 that were staying, and this mother was like 25, and there were a lot of guns on the property, and Ezra Miller had them there, and there's all sorts of bad news.
Did someone get hurt?
Nobody got hurt, but they did find the 1-year-old baby with a bullet in their mouths. It happens.
I mean, safer in the baby's mouth than in a gun.
Yeah, you know what? That's very Canadian of you.
Choking.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just like, I mean, come on. You're going to cancel Batgirl and that's going to go? Come on.
Yeah. So, they're just raiding all sorts of houses. Mar-a-Lago got raided by the FBI and the federal, so that's good. Maybe, they didn't find a bullet in Trump's mouth. Or did they? I don't know. They haven't released it. But
a McRib.
yeah, the Ezra Miller news is, it's just like how much more bad news has to happen before they finally say, well, you got the number for that Derek Cranevelt kid in Canada, because we need to pivot. We need to figure something else out.
I mean, the worst thing he could do is be a Latino woman, apparently.
Well said.
If the Flash was the Latino woman, this movie would already be shelved and recast.
I mean, you're not wrong.
It hurts. No, it doesn't. I mean, and then, you still got that Joker movie. And then today, there was another green light over at HBO Max that was white dude creators coming out and doing it. Ian sent it to me, and I could look it up. But really, I just don't care at this point. I'm ticked. I mean, we have James Franco, being cast as Latino characters, and they're like, "What? It's Portuguese. What's the big deal? He's Portuguese descent. Portuguese is European. I just want to. That's not Latin America.
No, it's different.
It's not even Hispanic because they speak Portuguese.
Jeez, and it's a very different language.
Not the same. Y'all know the difference between when somebody's a Hispanic and when somebody's a Latino, right? Well, I mean, we know this. Well, okay, so Portuguese is from Portugal is not Hispanic or Latino, but a Brazilian who speaks Portuguese is Latino, but not Hispanic. Hispanic is you speak Spanish, right? Latino is you're from Latin America. So that's it. That's the difference. That's how you know. That's how that works. So there's a lot of Latinos who are looking at the James Franco casting and being like, whoa, wait a minute. There's an actual Latino, and maybe whoever cast him was like, but Portuguese, kinda. It reminds me of that scene in Signs where there's that found footage video that's supposed to be from Brazil, but all the people in the found footage are speaking Spanish, and they're like, está detrás, which is he is behind. It's behind in Spanish, and I'm sitting here going, why are they speaking Spanish in Brazil? Oh, it's because everybody making this movie was like,
I don't know.
Busy being 10 and scared at that scene too. Notice that.
Yeah, Derek was 10. He's like, I don't know. It sounds like Portuguese to me. They speak Portuguese in Brazil? What's going on here?
And then a week later, they used the same actors to play Arabic. We know.
Yeah, so Hollywood still got that problem.
They got a huge problem with that.
Yeah. Marissa Pona is up in the. She's up on Facebook saying they screw Latino actors and actresses all the time. She went as far as to say fuck Franco in that casting choice. Yeah,
you know what? And you're right. And you should be saying that, because we have a plethora of amazing Latino actors and Portuguese actors. Like it's amazing to me that Warner Brothers continues to do these kinds of things, or just Hollywood in general. I mean, not just Warner Brothers.
Yeah, he was cast as Castro, which is not.
Oh,
no.
What?
He was cast as Castro's Cuban, like Fidel Castro. It's bad. It's bad. It's like they got the dude from Pineapple Express to play.
It's almost like they figured we're going to get enough heat for casting him to begin with, so we might as well just go.
We might as well just go all in.
Yeah,
it's bad. It's not good.
Oh, wow.
That being said, I will tell you one of the things I was working on at Comic-Con is to try and get a Spanish language podcast on the network, and we'll see how that goes. We have a couple people I've been talking to who are in podcasting or getting into podcasting, and they are. Maybe I'd love to. You know why I want to add them to the network? Not just because I think that it's important to bring a Spanish language podcast. I mean, we make 30% of the population here in the United States. Like, that's how much we make up. So I want to bring Spanish language podcasts onto the network, but also I just want to see Matt Kelly deal with it. Like, I just want to see the emails. Like the emails Matt Kelly sends out to the actual like English speaking podcasters is kind of rough English, and I want to see what he does in Spanish. Matt, how do you defend yourself? Matt's muted.
You're gonna mute yourself.
Matt, did you mute yourself? Everybody, I want to take this pause in Matt's podcasting to say check out weknowpodcasting.com, where Matt can help you with your podcasting. Matt is not muted in the backup audio, so if he's yelling at the Geekscapists who are listening to this on the audio backup, they're going to be like, "Oh, I can hear Matt fine," but on the live stream, Matt is having some issues. Let's just have him rejoin us. Continue. Okay, we've talked enough about the Batgirl thing. I want to see the movie, and here's what.
Do you think you will?
Let me think. Okay, the movie's done. It just needs to be edited.
That's what I heard. I mean, but that
was in
doesn't
post,
account for social. That doesn't count for special effects. That doesn't account for.
They're still going to spend money on this movie, putting it out.
Yeah.
I thought the deal with this tax write-off thing is that they could never release it. Like
that's what I heard too. Yeah, like
I think
because
that's the issue.
It's basically scrapping a project because you had a merger and they could get it under the deadline because it was during the time of the merger. So I don't think it will be edited because you'll need the special effects to go in there. And the special effects groups out in Hollywood are also having a big riot, especially with, working with Marvel and DC and all the insane things that they're expected to do for so very little money.
Yeah. And then as we get more and more dependent on like special effects, they continue to bid against each other and bid themselves further and further down. Yep. It's hard. I mean, honestly, with this Warner Brothers thing, I sent an email today to friends in the industry and I said, hey guys, like, what are we doing? Are we like on the brink of a collapse here with entertainment? It's really hard unless you're Marvel or Disney to like make a project that is sustainable at this point or profitable. Matt, are you back? Let's just check real quick.
I don't know. I changed out all my microphone stuff.
Hi,
and
Matt.
I'm recording in the board as well for you. So
you sound good, buddy. You sound fun. You sound fun.
Well, I think Zencaster screwed up. I don't know what happened, but all right.
Okay. Thank you for making our jobs harder here at
Hey,
Geekscape,
that's what I do. I roll in and I ruin everything. I've had a day of ruinousness.
Oh, Matt.
Matt, well, what's been going on with you?
So I agreed to do this thing, which I'm glad that I'm doing it. It's an interesting experience.
Because you don't agree to do enough things. You don't have enough on your plate.
I agreed to teach 2 45-minute classes at a juvenile detention center for a week as like a guest speaker teaching about how to do a podcast. And I showed up today. I had my whole game plan for my 45-minute class. And I wasn't really connecting with the class, but I was like, all right, like I'm shaking off the rust, but maybe I'll have better luck with the second class. And then that's at that point, at the end of the 45 minutes, as I finished my entire plan for the day, was when I found out, oh, we forgot to tell you there isn't a second class. We had to combine them both. So they're coming back in 30 minutes after their lunch for the second half of their class today.
But you've already covered everything you intended to cover.
I covered everything that I intended to cover
in the first session. Wow.
So I had 30 minutes to figure out what the next 45 minutes of that class was going to look like.
Talk about improv. Did you just talk about horror movies?
No, I figured out that they liked
Nickelodeon.
Well, now their podcast that they're going to do. They're very into rap music. They're all wannabe rappers. So we're going to do a rap podcast where they, as a class, picked a beat that they like. So we were going through different beats until they picked a beat that they like. And then tomorrow, each one of them will get to rap a verse over the beat. And then the rest of the class will critique the verse and give them pointers and notes for the first half of the class. And then the second half of the class is I'm going to play them 3 different rap songs from different eras and have them critique those songs as well to get them more comfortable with critiquing lyrics, not face to face with the person, so that hopefully by Friday, when we record the 4th and final episode, they are way more open to like talk about that stuff openly with each other.
How old are these kids, Matt?
14 to 18.
Okay. And this is like you're going to like a local high school or something?
No, this is like a legit juvenile detention center. Like it's barbed wire and everything around the building.
Okay. When you walk in, now let me ask you this: when you walk in, I'm guessing there's like a bit of security coming in.
Yeah, I got to go through like 3 security checkpoints. Yeah.
Is there Coolio music playing in the background?
No, not yet.
What?
I might ask for that.
I was just gonna ask Matthew
Okay.
Kelly, what 3 rap songs are you bringing to these children?
I was just thinking that you were like, what was that Michelle Pfeiffer movie where you like?
Well, that's what I was
inspire
gonna say.
the
I turned
kids?
around. They knew that I was serious because I turned the chair around backwards and sat down.
Good.
Let me
That's
level
how
with
they
you
know.
kids.
No, but
That's right.
so for tomorrow, the 90s song that I went with is Far Side Drop. Because they wanted to look at music videos too, and I was like, well, that's a really cool music video because that's the one that Spike Jonze shot entirely backwards and then reversed. So I think that they'll be kind of impressed by the visuals. I wanted to give them a song that there was absolutely zero chance that they had heard. So they are going to be listening to a Mega Ran song, Mega Ran Infinite Lives. And then I heard from another teacher that they really like a new rapper named Little Durk. So I'm going to throw a Little Durk song in there as well. Finding a clean version that didn't sound insane when it was edited was a little bit difficult, but I'm also hoping that if I can drop that in there, they'll be like, oh, okay, he knows who Little Durk is. He must be all right. So I'm starting with Little Durk to kind of buy them in on the next 2 songs.
And Matt, I'm guessing that these kids are aspiring like rappers, DJs, MCs themselves, right?
I mean, that's part of it. I don't know. There's like parts of it that are like, it is upsetting at times. Like, so one of the conversation pieces that we were talking about was I talked about how like podcasting and finding people who shared the same interests as I did was like a thing that really pulled me out of my dark places. And I was like,
streets and not a gang
yeah.
yourself.
And I was like, who do you guys like? What is something that when you saw it, you felt like that's what I want to be? And like the first kid was like Scarface, man. When I saw that movie Scarface, that was like what I was aiming for. And I was like, that is really upsetting.
Did he see the end of the movie?
That's what I said. I was like, doesn't he die at the end of that? And they were like, well, that won't be me.
But do you think you could show them some like footage of like Shane O'Hare to like scare them straight?
That's a good idea.
This is what you could be. Now, I will tell you the one part where I was proud of myself anyway.
None of the kids said like what really influenced me was late 90s ska.
No, shockingly, that didn't do it.
No, nobody was like, "Oh, the second I watched Rocko's Modern Life, I knew that spoke to me." None of those kids did that. How are you actually relating to these kids, Matt?
So this was the one time where I was like, "Thank God, I have such a stupid brain filled with pop culture knowledge."
Oh, don't because
the one kid was like clearly making a joke, right? And he was like, well, the three people that I really connected to, that I really saw myself in, was Bumblebee from Transformers, all of the Power Rangers, and Shrek. And like the whole class laughed. And I was like, well, I mean, we could break that down a little bit. I mean, Bumblebee couldn't verbalize his emotions, but he spoke through music. And like Power Rangers was a group of outcast kids who were able to come together as one unit. And Shrek had a beautiful heart filled with feelings, but no one would give him a chance. And like the room just kind of fell silent. And
the kid goes, I will.
Shrek is literally just a meme at this point. Like they probably haven't even seen the movie.
Yeah, like, they don't even know it is a movie.
At which point the kid pulls out a shiv made out of a spoon and goes, I will fucking kill you. Don't you ever reveal my vulnerability again. I will hollow your skull out. You calling me weak? Matt, if these are our risk kids, we are sensitive to that. If there was a situation to break out, do you think you could go substitute on them, like that movie, The Substitute?
No, I don't think I need to. There's at least 2 security guards in the room at all times.
Okay.
So they're the lowest. I want to say lowest at risk. That's not the exact phrasing, but like there's 4 different locations in this juvenile detention center. The place that they're at, that I'm teaching with, is referred to as the Cottage, specifically because they're allowed to leave on the weekends and go back home. Like they have to stay Monday through Friday. So it's like, but from what I understand, it was a lot of like caught with weapons, caught with drugs, like stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a scared straight program for them. But the other 2 buildings is like straight up, you are like here until you turn 18, and then we release you back out there and hope that you make better decisions.
Matt, who do we write letters to make you like go to like the Hannibal Lecter jail or something like that?
I'll say that while this is an
councilwoman.
While this is an interesting experience, I think that this is a one and done experience.
No,
for me, like
Matt,
it's like a great source for new content for the network, though.
No, I mean, I'm going to finish out the week, but it's
You could have the next Dissect on your hands. Like that's a great podcast that dissects all sorts of different music. So you never know.
We'll see.
Okay,
we'll
Matt,
see. I mean, they could.
What happens?
I don't know.
What happens if come Friday you're like, I'm out of here. I'm done. This is too much for me. And as you're about to leave, one of the kids like shakes, like you announce, you're like, hey, this is it for me. One of the kids just goes, just another male in my life who's turned his back on us. What do you then say? Do you then have your moment where you turn around and go, you know what? And like music, you start like the Coolio music starts playing and you decide to stay.
No, because I was already announced as just a 1 week guest.
Oh, Jesus.
They're not going to put a permanent podcasting class.
Okay.
They already gave you 30 more minutes to do a whole new lesson without even telling you. So you never know. You might be back next week, man.
That is true.
Yeah,
no, but
they'll call you on Monday and be like, where you at? Started 20 minutes ago.
Matt, what if you miss the kids so much you go into a life of crime to get back there?
I mean, that's always possible.
That'd be a weird way to get into
real jail.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
I'm young at heart, is what I yell as they.
Hopefully, that other Matt Kelly that has your social security number is like a kid, and you can use his number to get into the juvenile.
That other Matt Kelly is the exact same age as I am.
It.
Yeah, that's how that whole snafu happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, listen. Speaking of delinquents.
Yes.
I have something serious to say to anybody listening to this podcast, all three of you. I'm a little concerned that people on the internet are not talking about Paper Girls. What is up with you people? Are y'all just not watching Paper Girls? Is that what's happening right here?
I saw Heidi post about it. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what's on.
Okay,
it's on
Amazon
let me tell you
Prime.
what it's on.
Derek, take it.
It's a program
you took my moment. You took my moment.
It's on a network that fed Derek many times.
I'm busy. I'm wearing my Paper Girls paper bag right now. Thank
nice.
you. I deliver my newspapers in it for extra income. It's on Prime Video. It's based on a I think it was like a 2015 comic book by Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chang, I think is how you pronounce the last name. It's about a handful of it's set in like the mid 80s, I believe. Handful of paper girls go to deliver papers on Hell Day, which is the day after Halloween, and some crazy shit starts happening, and there's time travel involved, and it's it kind of like deals with like death in an interesting way, and the mortality of the characters rather, and all that sort of stuff. I was lucky enough to see the first 3 episodes at Comic-Con, which was a week, 2 weeks before it came out, and I was super into it right away. So I haven't finished the series yet because Michaela wants to watch it with me, and our time has been we haven't had too much time to watch things together, so it's been very hard not to just watch it without her. But it's been I was into it right away. I think that the first episode could potentially turn people off because it's very like Fast and Furious right away, and it's very like what the hell is going on, and I think that's how the characters are feeling as well, and that kind of the show kind of envelops that also. And I think my favorite of the first 3 episodes was episode 3, when things kind of start to slow down, and you get to actually you start to actually get a sense for how the characters are feeling and how they're dealing with this stuff, and I can't wait to watch more of it though. The book is really good. The book's a blast. I hope enough people watch it that the show can continue, but we'll see. And does anyone else get you've watched some of it then, Jonathan?
We're almost done with it. So we're big fans here in the London household.
Shane says Life is Strange, the show. That's incorrect, but thank you.
Well, Shane is in the comments, and I'm not putting those on screen because uninformed opinions. We have enough of those on this show. But the thing is, the first 2 episodes are pretty close to the comic.
Yes,
and then,
they are. Yeah.
And then episode 3, and the comic's great. It is, as Derek said, it's 4 girls on Halloween night in 1986, and they don't know it, but they're about to be at the center of a time war between 2 generations from the future who are coming into 1986 for various reasons we won't know yet. and they're jumping through time, trying to correct the timeline. And these girls are kind of in the middle of it, and they get swept up in it. And you see them very quickly go to other times, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. They're very much not equipped for any of this. And like Derek said, the first episode is pretty disorienting, but it does put you in the shoes of the characters. Episode 2, you do start to realize, oh, okay, they're time jumping now, and they're starting to catch up. Episode 3, what it does that's different than the comic is you start to expand from what the comic is, because the first 2 really stick to the comic almost strictly, and then when it starts to expand in episode 3 and then episode 4 and episode 5 goes even further with it, you start bringing in future versions of the girls. You start bringing in alternate reality. I mean, it's like alternate possible future versions of the girls. And like you said, it has a lot to do with mortality and whether or not you when you grew up, whether or not you met your potential, whether who did you end up becoming the person you wanted to be when you were 14, as these girls are. And the moments are great, the moments where they realize the surprises or the disappointments of who they end up being. And then they get back to the plot of saying, you know what, is this set in stone or is this something we can change? And that's ultimately the goal of the war, is a younger generation battling an older generation to change the future from becoming something that is just run by an older generation. Strict, it's like
like the older generation doesn't want anything to change,
right?
I think, right,
exactly.
Which obviously feels very parallel to things happening in the real world. And I don't know, it's really
interesting.
Yeah, it's really it's been quite fascinating so far. Do you get major, Jonathan? Do you get major Edward Furlong in Terminator 2 vibes from Mac?
Mac?
Yeah.
You know what? I didn't think about that until you said it. The haircut for sure, and there's a lot of bike riding in this episode, in this show. You've only seen the first 3 episodes.
Just 3.
One of the storylines that's expanded a lot from the comics is Mac's storyline.
Awesome, yeah.
And that's what's kept me from making that parallel. Mac's storyline,
sure, yeah,
it's already something that kind of gets you in the gut in the comics.
Fair. And early on, yeah.
And I don't want to spoil anything, but in this story, in the TV show, it goes several steps further.
I would say maybe that comment's more towards the first couple of episodes, because it changes a lot, I think, even in the 3rd episode for her. But the first couple episodes, just her like attitude and her like fuck everything. It felt very you
find out very quickly why she's so angry, and they all have their own secrets. Geekscape is, if you're into like 80s stuff, the retro stuff, if you're into Stranger Things, if you're into sci-fi, if you're into awesome female characters, you got to watch the show. Is it at risk for cancellation? I got to tell you, I don't think it is, because the showrunner on the show is also one of the consulting producers on Amazon's biggest investment to date, the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. And she's also in business on this series. It's a Plan B production. That's Brad Pitt's company. And it was ordered straight to series.
Sick.
Series, not season. Series.
Right.
All right. Like I think they're in it to win it on this one.
So the thing about Paper Girls that crossed into my world was the weirdness with the Weird Al factor of it all. Have you heard about this?
The second episode is called Weird Al is Dead, because one of the girls realizes that now that they're in the future, her pet hamster Weird Al is dead, and she says it out loud.
But the other thing is that Why the Last Man also had an episode called Weird Al is Dead.
That's right.
And Weird Al posted on Instagram saying, "Why does Brian K. Vaughan want me dead so badly?" And then Brian K. Vaughan chimed in and was like, as the creator of the show, I got all the scripts sent to me in advance, and I thought it was so funny that both shows somehow came up with the name Weird Al is Dead for an episode. I decided to say nothing to see if it would actually get released that way.
Well,
there's another show that hit streaming this weekend, and Katie watched it, as did in the comments. We'll bring some of those comments up on screen because he is spazzing hard. We love him, actually. Our good friend Jim Pagranelli, who is the biggest Sandman fan I know, he read these comics in their original run there in the 90s. The Sandman is finally out, which is crazy, because Hollywood's been trying to make the Sandman for
so good.
20 plus years.
It's so good.
And you want to know why? Because it's freaking Neil Gaiman, and
because he's actually involved with it.
Yes, he's actually involved with it. So, I mean, look, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, when I read this as a kid, I was so batshit confused. I was like, there's too many things going on. I was like, the parables and like the allegories and things like that. I was just like, wait, is this an allegory? Is this a real thing? I was like, like watching this, like there are hints of things that I'm like, oh right, I forgot about that storyline, and I was like, oh, and like just to see this fully fleshed out and in front of my face, and also this actor, spot on, exactly how I imagined this character.
That's great.
So great.
So can I ask the same question I asked when Y: The Last Man came out?
No.
If you haven't read the Sandman comics, do you think you should before you watch the show? Should you watch the show and it would actually make the comics more clear when you do get around to reading them? Like, what is the vibe there?
So I can't speak from intellect. I can only speak from the fact that I read these as a kid, was totally confused, and now I feel like redeemed in my knowledge. So I personally have been loving just watching this show as is, and like getting the like, oh yeah, that's right, that story came up, but not like that. That kind of just adds to it. It doesn't inform it in my mind. But for those of you who understood the comic when you read it, what are your thoughts?
I pretended to, but I have not watched the Netflix show. I mean, everybody. I mean, I think I was in middle school when this thing started up, and you read it in high school because you want to be cool. And ultimately, it got pretty wide pretty fast. I think they're only handling in this season. I haven't started it, but this is what people have told me, that they're handling the first major storylines. But I'm going to throw it to Jim in the comments, because he says, so as someone who read a lot of the original run back in the 90s, this adaptation of Sandman is hitting so many of the right notes, including so many of the series' best moments. I love it so much, and the casting is pitch perfect. John Cameron Mitchell is perfect, and the Corinthian is full on David Bowie. Also, for anyone complaining that the Sandman is woke, holy fuck, this book had queer and non-binary binary characters over 30 years ago, and that is true.
It did. Yeah. And that was one of the things I think that confused the hell out of me to begin with in the original run, and just like growing older and becoming a little bit more progressive as I grow older, has been really nice to just see this fully fleshed out and realize through Neil Gaiman actually writing the screenplays and like doing it such justice and service.
I love Michaela and I've watched like the first 4 episodes. I think I've loved because she got into it when Audible did the audiobook version a few years back, and like really enjoyed it. And she's like a huge Neil Gaiman fan. Like I introduced her to him randomly. I was at a bookstore and while she was like in an appointment or something, and read the back of like The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and I was like, that sounds like Michaela would love this. Gave it to her. She's read like every book he's written almost now since then, and so she was so excited for this to come out. And it's so like, I don't know, I haven't read it, which it's like been on my list to read since I was like a child, and have not, and so now I'm just watching the series, but asking her like how close it is and stuff, and she's like doesn't want to say too much, but she's loving it. But I just love visually even how like, I don't know, like things are like skewed weirdly, and the like frames will be like stretched out, and it just like I feel like I've seen people complaining about it, but I just feel like it adds to this whole like dreamy aspect of the whole thing, or the surreal aspect of the whole thing. I do wonder this Halloween, are we going to see more dreams or more Eddie going on? Because had this dropped a few months ago before Comic-Con, I wonder if the landscape would have looked a bit different. Also, major Edward Cullen vibes from him, but I guess he did it first, so
it's true. Yeah, no, totally. But he's got the voice to back it up.
Oh, like, the voice is amazing.
Good Lord, his voice is so deep.
My pants just like fell off as soon as I.
Me too.
We'll watch it. We're just trying to say Paper Girls first. I have a question for Josh, because Josh hasn't said anything quite yet, but he's always welcome here on Geekscape. We love him, and he was at Comic-Con with us. And this is really for all y'all, but I want Josh to answer first. What were the cosplays that were excessive here at Comic-Con, and were there any that we were disappointed in not seeing? I thought that we would see, who was Peacemaker's buddy, the little violent dude who would run around.
Judo Master?
No, not Judo Master. No, the neighbor, the dude who was like psychotic.
Oh my goodness!
God, why am I thinking his real name? Adrian.
feel free to Google. But I thought we'd see a lot more Patriot themed cosplay at Comic-Con. The Vigilante. Thanks, Jim Pellegrino. The Vigilante. What cosplays did you expect to see more of? Question for Josh. And what did you think were too many? Because I thought there was a pretty good balance this year.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, after so long away, were just trying to get in the cosplays that they wanted to do all that time and couldn't. So I can't even really say that I saw too much of anything. I saw a pretty even balance. Like there was a lot of Eddies.
But that's just
was there a lot of Eddies or just a lot of people wearing Hellfire Club shirts?
Yeah. I saw at least 3 Eddies. Yeah, like female Eddies, male Eddies. Like I saw a lot of people like
we could have stood to see one more, but that would have been Derek if he'd actually successfully gotten a shirt.
Yeah, and that's a pretty easy costume though. You just like throw on the shirt. Derek. If you already have long hair, you're good.
Not for me. I tried all week.
We tried to get Derek. Netflix was like 2 rows over. We tried to get Derek to steal one. We tried to get Derek to just ask for one. We were wrapping up, Katie,
and they said they didn't have any more. And then I saw them
Derek
give a bunch
to
the
me
people.
to get one.
Okay, so what happened was, as we're wrapping the booth and the floor is closed, we're wrapping the booth. The Netflix team is all celebrating and Derek is like, okay, I'm going to go over there and see if I can get a shirt. For 10 minutes, I look over there and Derek's just silently watching them have their little party. And I was like, no, Derek, come on, man, we got to wrap this booth up. You walk over there. This is what you do, Derek. And Matt can tell you how to do this because he's been working in a prison. Find the biggest person at that booth. Go over and just suck him in the nose and get your T-shirt. All right, if you use him as an example. All right.
I will say, Mark
I had
went over to the Netflix booth, and like we were just in front of it, and they're like, they did a full on Stormtrooper like move along, like unless you're like inside the. I was like, oh, but we're literally just looking at the products that you have, and they're like, no, move along.
That's terrible. Wow. As opposed to the Geekscape booth, we're like, please talk to us.
Oh my god,
you want a free shirt?
Move inside the booth.
Do you know magic tricks? Can you do anything? Please entertain us. Matt Kelly's falling over.
One cosplay that really stood out though was there was this Wanda from Multiverse of Madness who had her book like on strings, and she was like flipping the page of the strings so it looked like it was floating.
That's
really
awesome.
Cool. Okay.
I feel like there was a lot of with the cosplay stuff. I feel like they were either all very much outside or just had no desire to walk down our aisle. Because when I eventually started looking at cosplayers for San Diego Comic-Con, which was like, look, it's tough to find specific people at San Diego Comic-Con, but compared to past years, this was a very underattended Comic-Con that I'm like, how did I not see 95% of these people during the 5 days that I was locked in one spot?
There was
the numbers low? I think the numbers were.
I mean, it was sold out. So.
It was sold out, but I don't think the stuff that was going on outside was quite as busy as it's been in years, because even
there's also
on
a lot
Saturday,
less of it.
Yes, there's a lot less of it. The experiences weren't, all that long, for COVID protocols and things like that. I will say that the 2 that really stood out for me were there was a Everything Everywhere All at Once family that had raccoons on their heads and eyeballs. They came by the booth. I saw them. Yeah, it was amazing. And then the other one that we saw was the guy dressed as Jon Snow who would take his sword, and when the light would change, he would go out into the middle where everybody would cross, and he'd just stand as everybody crouched in on him.
That's amazing. And we have some of those up on the Geekscape Forever Instagram.
We're going to be posting one cosplayer every Thursday until I'm out of the photos that we took. So,
well, in Geekscape is, I think Long Beach as far as I'm concerned, Long Beach Comic Con's early September. So I'm going to try and go down there as press. And then we also have Katie and I, maybe Katie, if you want to come to Long Beach with me, make a day of it, we can go down to Long Beach Comic Con, and it's early September, and then early December we're back at LA Comic Con. I'm supposed to talk to the CEO of LA Comic Con and see what we can do as far as panels and just collaborating. Obviously, Josh, you're local, you can collaborate on that too. That'd be fun if you want to come to Long Beach or you want to do LA Comic Con and that stuff. Josh, I know you're busy, and you've also got Evo that just happened, so there's a lot of video game stuff going on.
And I
don't know how much of the Comic Cons you actually want to be involved with.
I don't know, as many as I can get to. Long Beach, maybe not, but the LA for sure.
Long Beach.
Long Beach is good for like a day-ish walk around. No offense, Long Beach, but.
Well, I think I'm going to New York Comic Con for at least a day, so I'll try to get some good cosplay photos from that. It's the week before a wedding that I have to go to, though, so it's kind of up in the air on it.
You do not have to go to that. You do not have to go to that. You do not have to go.
Yes, he does. He has to go to Porto's.
Yeah. But then I also, I mean, this hasn't officially been announced, but I would say there's a 95% chance that your boy might be moderating a Hocus Pocus reunion panel at the end of the month.
I love that.
Right now?
Oh my god!
I love that.
Matthew Kelly, are you kidding me right now?
I'm
Michaela loves
slightly
Hocus
serious.
Pocus so much.
But Matt,
I'm
that's
supposed
not-
to be moderating that, and I'm supposed to be moderating a Q&A with Taylor Labine, who I like absolutely fucking
Yes.
love from Reaper and all that.
And from what's the really fun one that they did with the two redneck guys?
Tucker and Dale versus
Tucker and
Evil.
Dale. Oh yeah. Taylor Labine's hilarious.
Yeah, as soon as he was announced, I emailed the guy who does the show because it's a friend of mine. I was like, "Look, if you want me helping out with this show, I need these two panels."
You listen here. I love it when Matt Kelly drives a hard bargain. Now you listen to me. I've got a
You
hand
listen
truck.
here,
I'm gonna
detention
put this hand
centers.
truck anywhere. You need. Matt was so
Hand truck.
valuable. Matt was so valuable, and so was Derek. Go back, Geekscape, if you're just listening to this on audio or video. Go back and listen to those episodes that we did at Comic-Con because, man, that was a tough Comic-Con. I had Matt Kelly and Derek helping me, and that was it. And when we pulled up to that convention center, and they weren't going to let us park underneath it, and they wanted us to deal with the Teamsters. I was like, oh, please don't make us do this. I had this vision that we were going to be trucking the booth over from like 3 blocks away in traffic for the gas lamp, trying to set up our booth. And we pulled up to the back, Josh, and this Teamster looked at us like, do you want to, he came over in a forklift. Like he was ready to empty our trailer with a forklift and charge us like $150 to carry it.
His first question was, John got the tiniest U-Haul attachment that you could possibly imagine. And he goes, how many pallets you got? It's like,
I go, there's pallets. We're gonna move this stuff in with a hand truck, and the guy goes, hand truck. we weren't even worth his. We weren't worth his time. He luckily drove away. We snuck the stuff in easily, and that was that. Man, what a pain in the ass Comic-Con this was. We're gonna be doing things a little bit differently next year, but we already paid for it, so we'll be there.
Yeah, that's almost the beginning and the end of the convention this year.
Yeah, hand truck.
Yeah, well, and then we also got. I also like the guy that we talked to, the head of the Teamsters, who said, "Go over there, and if anyone gives you any trouble, tell them Frank sent you." And then we quickly found out that Frank's name meant very little to the security.
The guy that wouldn't let us in. It's like, well, then go talk to Frank. And it was
My
like,
God.
Oh, Frank, we hate that guy. Get out of here.
Yeah.
There were these beautiful double doors that were open on the same level we were on.
You could see our booth
You could
from there,
see
basically.
the space where the booth was, and
Yep.
we're like, we just need to take this thing 20
Right
feet.
there.
He's like, ain't coming through here. Well,
And you're
Frank
like-
sent us. Who's Frank?
Who the hell's Frank?
They sent us down the circuitous path down back into the belly of the thing, into the parking structure, across the whole. I mean, what a pain in the ass. We could have gone 20 feet and been done with it. Hand truck.
Who the hell is Frank?
Matt, if you had already had your prison training skills,
Yeah.
you could have popped them right in the nose and gotten Derek.
Or Derek could have,
Yeah.
We also got yelled at by another guy with a forklift as we were trying to go up there because he was yelling at the security guard. He's like, "You got to tell these guys to stop going up this ramp." Just as we watched another group of people go up the ramp just ahead of us.
So close. All right. So, speaking of transportation, you went to see Bullet Train, Katie. This is the new Brad Pitt movie, and you said it was awesome. I saw you raving about it up on the Twitter. I wanted to see it, but I didn't get a chance to shake free this weekend and take a look. It looks manic, though. This Bullet Train looks crazy.
It's absolutely manic, but it's well designed. So I will say it feels like the first, like, I don't know if this was a comic book or an anime beforehand, but this feels like the way you should do anime live action, because all of the different tropes, everything was very big, everything was hilarious, like to the point where they had this running theme of Thomas the Tank Engine that just worked.
No spoilers, but that sounds amazing.
I'm like,
that sounds amazing.
And like, honestly, it's not that big of a thing, but it like is a through line that's fucking fantastic. And all of it, like the acting is amazing. I've got a buddy in it. He plays one of the Yakuza members. He's fantastic. Yeah, like I tell you, this movie is like no holds barred, like goes like 100 miles a minute. It's amazing. It's really funny. Brad Pitt, I swear this was like supposed to be a Deadpool movie originally, and then they just made it a Brad Pitt movie, and honestly doesn't even feel like the main character. But it's fantastic. The action is super quick, super good, and honestly, like those kinds of action that, like, you know, no one seems to be pulling punches. Like everything
Sure.
goes
well choreographed, fast, like quickly choreographed, crazy, relentless.
Relentless, absolutely
it's like
relentless.
an adrenaline ride from the beginning to the end, sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of those that, like, I thought I could guess a couple of the things. A lot of the twists totally caught me by surprise, which is very rare. And I feel like that was one of those things that was like, finally, a movie where I didn't predict what was happening next. It's great.
Pretty awesome. Okay, so I want to watch that. Speaking of twists and turns, and I didn't mention this before the show, a movie that I really loved that I watched this past week. BJ Novak made a movie called Vengeance, where he plays a podcaster, and he gets a call. He's kind of like a little bit of a womanizing New Yorker dude who likes to date a lot of different girls, saves them.
Sounds
in their
like
phone.
BJ Novak.
Yeah, well, the opening scene is he and John Mayer at a party, like talking about girls, and they're like saving girls' names in their phones with like nicknames and things like that. And he gets a call in the middle of the night that this girl in Texas is dead, and aren't you her boyfriend? And the funeral's coming up. So he goes to Texas for this funeral of a woman that he can barely remember. And the brother is like, I think this was a murder. I don't think my sister just OD'd. I think she was killed. And he's a podcaster looking for a story. Issa Rae is his editor, is his Matt Kelly. And she's like, hey, I'm not too into this. But then as soon as the murder thing and the Texas kind of thing starts kicking in, and like the real rural, like Texas starts kicking in, the weirdness of it, they have a story, and then he starts going down the rabbit hole of whether or not this girl was actually murdered. And the movie was sweet. The movie's hilarious. He's such an incredible writer and a really good director. He directed it, that I was really blown away by it. I knew it was going to be good. I knew it was going to be at least well written, but the movie's really, really well done. And I think it's going to go. I think it's going under the radar right now. I went to see it at the local Lemley, which is an indie theater. So I actually think this is a movie that's going to end up being on streamers in the next couple of months. But don't skip it, Geekscapists, especially if you like podcasts. You're listening to a podcast right now. Imagine Matt Kelly getting in a murder mystery because he was just pursuing a story for a podcast. Might happen. Might actually happen. And it was great. It was hilarious and fun. And Ashton Kutcher's in it. There are a couple actors in it who are noticeable, like I mentioned, Issa Rae, but it's fun. It's a good movie, and I think it's getting missed right now, sadly. You'd love it, Katie. It's so smart.
On that same note, second season of Only Murders in the Building has been delightful thus far.
I want to see the first season, and it's like there's
too much
great.
It's so good.
There's too much content. There's too much content.
There's a lot of content.
You won't have to worry about that with HBO Max for much longer, though.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful.
No,
they're all be dead in the ground.
As long as I still get my own
anyway, so that's another one you can ignore.
And there's only 2 more episodes of The Rehearsal left, also. So
yeah.
Oh my god,
there's
only 2 episodes left.
We just started High School Musical, the musical, the series, season 3. So there's a lot of attention that can be put on that.
I love how Matt is like, there's too much content. He's wasting his powers. No, he and Josh, they love the High School Musical.
Yeah, I haven't watched episode 2 yet, but episode 1 is pretty great so far.
It's a great series.
Josh, did you go down the same like torturous path?
Nathan Fielder path?
That Derek and I went down and watched that Resident Evil series on Netflix.
Oh no! I saw
I did this weekend.
Yeah,
holy shit, Matt, you literally were sitting with us as we were finishing the series. You knew better than to watch this thing.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I was in a hotel room for an entire convention, editing podcasts, and I said, "What is something pointless that I can put on in the background while I edit podcasts?" And that seemed like the prime option.
The best description that I heard of this Netflix Resident Evil series, and this is for people who who know a lot about Resident Evil and actually hate Resident Evil because it has so much Resident Evil references in it. It has so much shout outs to the storylines. It is for people who are like, oh my god, it's shouting out so much Resident Evil. It definitely takes place deeply in the Resident Evil world. Holy crap, this is unwatchable.
The only thing I really saw, the only thing I really saw was the scene where she's like dancing to Dua Lipa. But that's really all that I've seen, and I feel like that's enough.
No. Listen, let me tell the Geekscapists. This is what you come here for. Let me show you the good stuff. Okay, this is how you watch the Resident Evil series and make it worth your while. There is a 2-minute sequence in the first episode where she fights a giant zombie caterpillar. Good. There is a giant sequence in the last episode, episode 8, where they fight a giant crocodile. That is what you watch. Turn it off. Just fast forward. That's the 2 things you need to watch: giant caterpillar, giant alligator. That's it. Turn it off. That's your
the
Resident
spider
Evil.
was kind of cool too.
You shut up. No, they get chased in like tunnels by something, and that are like that's from the game. But
man, if you want to
got
talk
real
about
Riverdale
creepy...
in the middle.
Oh God,
Hey,
I got an
oh.
email.
if you want
an email today saying
Oh.
that Riverdale season 6 is on Netflix now, and
Yeah,
I'm
boy, it just
obligated to
dropped.
watch it.
yeah, baby.
Oh, I'm
They
gonna
go back
watch
to the
it this week.
50s. Things get weird. They're in the
Oh,
50s
God.
now.
I think the
but
50s is the next season, isn't it?
My
whatever.
soul left my body when I saw that email. I'm like, now I have to watch it, but I really
Josh,
don't want to.
Josh,
I was free. I was free for like 3 months.
Oh,
Can we
Josh,
run an
see, I had the
experiment?
opposite reaction. I'm house sitting for someone tomorrow, and I was like, "Ooh, great time to put on Riverdale."
Geekscape is, if you want to burn a house down in Pennsylvania, but in like close to Delaware, just go to whatever house Matt's house sitting and burn it down. He's not watching it. Just like if you want to go to a convention and not see Matt Kelly at all because he's busy watching garbage in and editing podcasts in a hotel room, just go to whatever like he whatever. What are you doing, Matt?
I don't know if burning the
There's
house.
a lot of
will
content,
work.
but you're watching the worst.
No, I'm watching the worst in situations where I don't have to give my full attention, and in situations where I do have to give my full attention, I make sure that I am finished my editing work and I reward myself with something like an
Are you
episode
still taking
of
care of
Sandman.
dogs?
Not as often.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, if you're looking to adopt a dog and through theft, Matt Kelly, he walks these dogs, and he's just like on his phone watching Resident Evil episodes.
Dog walking is podcast time. that's
so you
where I
can
have
just
the podcast
swoop in, grab the Pomeranian, get back in the van. You'll be out of there in no time before Matt even
boy.
notices. Jim Parker now he puts a capper on it by saying Resident Evil is a waste of a perfectly good Reddick. Yeah, I agree. Katie, you had a great segue going. We're just going to kick back to it as if it actually worked. She said, if you like creepy, Jordan Peele has a new movie out. We're talking about.
Oh, I didn't even hear her say that. I'm sorry. I talked to her.
No,
okay,
it's
Matt.
fine. It's
No,
fine.
listen,
I think you
fine.
even said it better than I did. But yes, Jordan Peele does have a great new movie out called Nope. It was. I have to say, and I don't know whether this is a good or bad thing, but I felt the same way about this movie as I did when I watched Us, in that I was like, that was interesting. I feel like I didn't fully understand all of it. I'm excited to read some articles afterwards and like learn what I just watched.
So I walked away from it thinking that it's probably my least favorite of his 3 movies, but I also think it's the one I'm going to watch the most because like it's very like there's still there's a lot of heavy allegory, but I feel like it's way more popcorny than Us and Get Out is. Like Get Out and Us, you like really put yourself through some shit to watch, where like this is like total Steven Spielberg throwback movie. It's Close Encounters, it's Jaws, it's like all of that, but with like some pretty fucked up heavy scenes.
There was some
really
fascinatingly unique stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
And it was
Steve Ewan's whole
Everything?
character, everything. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. I was like, oh my God. On top of everything else that was going on, Keke Palmer is just bar none amazing. And David Kaluuya is just fantastic. But man, does he know how to do everything in silences. Like if you want to talk about like an actor like that doesn't have that many lines, because that's just kind of how his character is. That dude is phenomenal to watch.
Yeah,
like
definitely. Then Dylan from Christmas 365 said this to me the other day, and I thought he made a really great point. But he was like, the greatest gift that Jordan Peele has as a director is that he is such a deep horror fan that he will be making a film that's an homage to one genre and then totally pull imagery from a completely separate genre to blend it. So like in the least spoilery way, this is obviously some type of science fiction alien thing from the pictures, but still uses like a lot of like haunted house imagery in certain scenes of the movie, which is like a really cool juxtaposition.
I will say there was one moment during like that I think you're specifically talking about that I was like, the horror movie guys probably are freaking out about this particular scene. I was like, this is cool. I was like, and usually I would be icked out by that kind of thing, but like that was cool how they did that.
I thank God that people write think pieces so quickly on this stuff, though, because I definitely needed someone to explain the connective tissue of like the Gordy's home stuff.
Yeah.
And then like once I read those articles, I was like, oh yeah, no, that is a great character explanation, actually. But
yeah, there's actually a lot of industry stuff within this movie, and like them. One of the things I think that we can say is that Kiki Palmer and David Kaluuya are they're animal wranglers for horses, and they work on sets. And a lot of that stuff, this things that they're talking about at the beginning of the film, are very real, and it's really cool to get like Jordan Peele to be able to produce a movie like this and like bring some light to these different stories in Hollywood that aren't usually talked about. And I think they did a lot of service to a lot of different things, but in such interesting ways. And then they have all this other like not real like industry lore, and I'm just like, all right, I got to do some reading.
but I also love that, again, like I keep saying the word popcorn flick. And I mean, that's kind of the point. Like he said, he wanted this movie to be more about spectacle than scares.
Ooh.
And it takes this awesome turn in the third act where it also turns into a love story about making movies with your friends in like a very weird but kind of organic way. Ultimately, like there's just a lot that I liked about this movie. And that's what I think I mean when I'm like, it might be my least favorite as far as like I think that Get Out is such a perfect first movie. And then like Us is very visually awesome and creepy and weird. But like Nope is absolutely that like, I got nothing to do on a Friday night. I'm going to make a bowl of popcorn. I'm just going to sit down and watch Nope and just like have a good time for 2 hours.
Ooh, interesting. I don't know if I agree with that, but that interesting.
I mean, he's clearly a master at messing with you. And you clearly have to watch his movies because he's so unique in telling the stories that like you're not going to get that experience anywhere else. I'm excited to see the finished version of this movie. Looks, I mean, you have to watch it. I was supposed to watch it on Friday. I didn't end up seeing it. I'm excited to.
Him and Danny McBride are also really proving that comedians can make amazing turns in horror because they can reuse like the setup of a great punchline to also set up a really effective scare, which kind of got lost in the sea of like hardcore horror fanboys making horror movies.
Right. Well, and that was
always the stuff isn't the same as the setup and punchline of
that was always the brilliant things about his sketches, though, like because there is such a interesting tenuousness when you get to like either the heart of a joke or like you finally get to that like punchline of the joke or punchline of a horror moment. Like there's the same kind of build up and setup to that he really masterfully does. And I love how much influence that he has with just science fiction in general. There's so much throughout it, and like you can see a lot of the references, especially if you're a total film geek or even a comedy geek. There's a lot of stuff in there that it's fascinating. Which is why I'm like, I gotta read more. Like, there's clearly stuff that I am completely missing.
And that's where I do think that horror has like really elevated itself into the most interesting run that it's been in a while. Because I think of something like Scream 5, like the newest Scream movie that came out, where there's this amazing sequence where the whole joke is like, we all know these movies and we know that someone is going to jump out at some point. So it's like for 5 straight minutes, there's like a character opening a refrigerator door and you're like, all right, here it comes. They're going to close the door and someone's going to be there. And like the music builds and then the door closes and nothing's there. And then they go into, and like they do it like 7 or 8 times to the point that you're like laughing about it. And then once you feel relaxed, the thing just jumps out of nowhere. Like it's
directed by comedians. I mean, if you Geekscape, if you're listening to this and you did like the 5th Scream movie, go look up on YouTube, Chad, Matt, and Rob. My friend Rob Polanski was part of a 3-person sketch group that would do Choose Your Own Adventure YouTubes, and they're hilarious. And I think it was Matt from that group who was a co-director on that Scream 5, and it will be, I think, part of Scream 6. But kudos to him for like going from a YouTube sketch group that was making really funny Choose Your Own Adventure videos, and then gets up on Scream 5, and like Matt said, you do see a lot of those same techniques that they were cutting their chops with on YouTube on Scream 5. Geekscape this episode is a little long, but it's okay. We had a lot of content to cover, and we covered it with our friends. And what else is Geekscape if not friendship, right? Well, it's a lot of things, but friendship's got to be a part of it. Matt, where can we find you besides like the entirety of the Geekscape network?
Geekscape.net's a good.
Did you notice it went down today, buddy? Did you see that?
No.
I spent the early part of the day with our good friend Paul West getting the website back up. It was a local server error. It had nothing to do with us. Trust me, this bill's been paid for the next 3 years. But it did go down. And Geekscape, as you're listening to this, and you know web design,
hit us up.
Yeah, we got to redesign that website. That being said, people who have been recommended to me, like that shit look like Wix. I can't.
Yeah.
No, we want this new design to be really good. So Geekscape, as you're listening to this, you're into web design. We don't need a coder. We have somebody handle the coding and the bells and whistles. We just want somebody to make the site look good, look sleek, look competitive for the new age. So send me an email, jonathan@geekscape.net.
Yeah. I guess just real quick, Weird Algorithm, check that out. That's kind of the newest thing that I'm working on. This week's guest is one of Weird Al's former personal assistants. Talking to us about I Lost on Jeopardy. He wrote 5,000 Weird Al trivia questions for the most recent Weird Al tour and is an extra in the new Weird Al movie starring Daniel Radcliffe. So he talked to us a little bit about that. And definitely subscribe to One Hit Thunder on your podcasting apps, because not only is Wednesday one of our funniest episodes that we've done in a while, but if you're a subscriber, you'll also get a minute-long song that we made out of a moment from that episode with the help of a producer friend of ours. So that's exclusively for people who subscribe to the podcast.
Josh Jackson.
And you can find me pretty much on all social media gaming platforms at Inu Joshua. And of course, I'm almost always on the Geekscape Games podcast. Just recorded kind of a solo show last week. It was Megan's debut, actually, on any of the podcasts. So we did a show. We slapped a show together since no one else was around. But yeah, other than that, you can just find me there every couple weeks.
That's great. I mean, I think that I love listening to that show every episode. But when Josh is on, it's immediately like a must listen immediately because it's hilarious.
Shane's not on this one either, so it elevates it even further.
Ooh.
How dare you, sir. How dare you, Derek. And speaking of Derek, when do we get the next Xbox Game Passengers podcast? It's been a little errant recently. It's been missing.
No, one dropped a few days ago. So
don't yell at me.
Yeah.
That was mostly on me. I didn't give Derek the proper access to upload the episode to Megaphone.
Oh my goodness, who's running this ship? Oh, that'd be Matt. I love this guy. He's like, hold on, I had to go keep a house I was watching from burning down.
No, look, so I was under the impression that if you had admin and then you had a producer level, that the level right in the middle would give them essentially the same access, but apparently the middle one is just strictly a reader availability. So all Derek could do is look at everything but not do anything.
Beautiful.
Derek, just you and me, okay? If you have a problem with Matt, just tell me. Okay, if there's something that hasn't been getting done, if you have an issue, just Matt, you stay out of it. Matt, you're not supposed to be listening.
It's not my fault that he had access for 2 months and didn't try to do anything with it until the day that the episode was supposed to drop.
Matt, you ever wondered what our text threads are like? It's exactly this.
Matt, go back to accidentally muting yourself. You didn't hear any of this. Listen, Derek, if you have a problem with anybody, beyond Shane, we know you have a problem with Shane. Just text me, okay, buddy? I'm there for you. If you okay.
I'll text the group. It's all in the it's all out in the open, you know.
Well, Katie, you have a problem with all of this, as you should. You're stuck in here with us. We're a bunch of psychopaths, but welcome to Geekscape, and you have a brand new podcast that we can promote right now for anybody who's still possibly listening to this.
Yes, you can catch me on the Black and White podcast on the Geekscape network with my friend Marie, who we need to get a t-shirt for. She's very interested in that. We're also probably going to have our first guest this week or coming week, so check out that. Other than that, you can find me here on Geekscape every once in a while, and sometimes on the Geekscape games when I actually have a night off. And you might be catching me somewhere else very exciting soon, but we'll announce that when that's official.
Speaking of people who need to get t-shirts, we'll announce that later.
There's a hoodie. I was looking for a hoodie. Okay.
Listen, beggars can't be choosers, right, pal? If you had a problem, you come to me, okay? Listen.
Oh my God.
I just mailed
weirdly
out.
feels like those like Trump, like you're gonna do the right thing.
All right, Geekscapists. I literally went to the post office today. If you've ordered a Geekscape shirt, it is in the hands of the U.S. Postal Service. They are out there, headed to you. I don't know if Josh got one. I hope Josh got one. And Katie, storage is right down the street. I can go get a shirt whenever you want. Just let me know the sizes. Geekscapists, go check out the Geekscape store. limitededition.com. We have a Geekscape store. You go there and search for Geekscape. You'll find our store. And the new Geekscape Forevers are in stock, and I've been mailing them out. So get on it. This is Geekscape. If you have a problem, just call me. You can find us. Just search for Geekscape, all that good stuff on socials. What I want you to do is go to Facebook and be a friend of ours. Search Geekscape. The Geekscape Forever group's a good place to hang our hats. Or all that stuff. I got that TikTok. How'd you like that Stan Lee Dickscape video? That one's
so funny. I hadn't seen that in a while, and I like
That's
almost
right.
I've seen it so many times and like spat out a drink almost. Just
maybe we get some Tyrese
classic.
video up there in the next week or so. That'd be fun.
It's all about the baby.
It's going to be a mix of new videos and like some sprinkled hits in there.
Yeah,
so.
And some buttered Pop-Tart people come out of the woodworks support.
Oh, Matt, you're building an army on that talk. All right, Geekscape, that's all we can fit. Okay, we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.
Bye.